Well, I don't know. David, are you doing the intro or am I?
Well, I guess I will because Stuart went off in a ramble last week that on Trump Trump tariff apologies tour. So today let's talk about something a little bit different, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? One of the things that just blows my mind is that the media is considered still a reliable source. Once upon a time, you used to say that you trusted that media, you trusted that journalist. The anchor person, or then the anchorman, because there's hardly any women doing it. The three men on the three big networks, you trusted them because they were the voice of reason. They were trustworthy. But what we're discovering more and more today is trust is a four-letter word. It is not even close to a reality. Because when it comes up to this administration in the White House, the media has decided that the bigger the target on Trump's back, the better. For example, how dare Donald Trump go play golf on the weekend? What kind of president is he? Joe Biden kept running to Delaware or kept running to the beach, but that was okay because he needed to recharge his batteries. Also, how dare Trump act this way? He's giving too many press conferences. He's taking too many questions. But 10 minutes ago, Joe Biden took none, had no press conferences, and you were complaining. So the question is, are we really able to trust a group of people who are consciously bearing serious stories to divert your attention from what may have happened in 2024? Welcome back to the Rant Network, everybody. I'm David Solomon. This is Stuart Brisgell. We are the Rant Network, folks. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. You know what we do? If you're new to this, thank you for joining us. Essentially, we are unedited, uncensored, unfiltered, unapologetic. You won't see us go back re-editing clips because, oops, we slipped up or we yelled at each other or we cursed each other out or something. It doesn't happen because we just love to do this. And people kind of put in the comments going, what is wrong with you people? But we enjoy this, and this is part of the natural, organic fashion that we do this podcast. It's all about the absurdities of modern life. We've been focusing a lot on a variety of different topics, but recently, of course, you folks have been hearing Trump tariffs. It dominates all the news cycles around the world, especially after last Wednesday when he published his famous list of reciprocal tariffs that did not include Canada and Mexico and yada, 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 yada. And last week was the Trump tariff noise week. Markets crashed. Markets crashing around the world because they're catching up. Oh my God, Chicken Little syndrome. The world is coming to an end. Yada, 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 bullshit. And the reason that Donald Trump is doing this, let's come up with a good excuse, Stuart. Oh, yeah, so his rich friends can get richer so they can buy more stock. Folks, in the 2024 election, more billionaires supported the Democrats than the Republicans. More Democrat billionaires donated to Democrats than Republicans. But Donald Trump is doing this for rich people. Again, why not lay out the facts? And I'm taking a little longer, Stuart, because I want to lay this out a little thicker for some folks, and I'll let you jump in. What was not published last week in many, many, many media outlets was the reality that in 2024, Joe Biden may have been one of Jim Henson's Muppets. His cognitive decline was so bad, as we saw in the June debate, that people were duped. Books have been released. Now, when Trump finished in 2021, books were released, and whatever came out of those books were considered fact. If you said Trump was crazy, it had to be fact. No one fact-checked those books. But those books talked about the Trump administration and how bad things were, how disorganized, chaotic, you name it, Trump's moods, blah, blah, blah. Books have been emerging about the election in 2024. And two stories that popped out, Stuart. One, staffers were told Joe Biden's okay. And if you watch the CNN interview last week, one staffer went on and said, we were lied to. And Ana Navarro, a so-called proclaimed Republican, which I don't believe her, and others around the panel were like, no way. You can't blame. You can't. It's not possible. It's not true. It's okay. Making excuses up for the Biden administration. And at the same time, another book came out talking about how Obama and the Democrats never wanted Kamala Harris to be the candidate. But what does the media focus on? Harris and Obama both going out vilifying Trump. That's all that matters. Not that the fact that in 2024, ladies and gentlemen, your duly elected president did not president. He wasn't president. He didn't rule. Stewart, how are we not frightened and running investigations into what happened last year in the White House?
You know, I'm going to just say, and just sort of catch one of the extra topics you sort of threw in there so I can just grab hold of it. It used to be the millionaires that are being supported by these tax, but you know what? They can't use that one anymore because Nancy Pelosi made $200 million, AOC made $20 million, and Chuck Schumer made an undisclosed quarter amount of money. So they can't use millionaire, but now they use billionaire. You know, I think in turn, just to end that topic for this broadcast, is that I think everyone in the world should be checking their leaders and their leaders' bank accounts and the way in which they seem to be bustering at the seams while they take office, but not before. Anyways, back to our topic, right? Because I wanted to grab onto that. You know, it seemed like when Donald Trump was in office, it was Trump derangement syndrome 1.0, and now they sort of need Trumpinol to help them through the next 3.5 years, because the Kleenex boxes that were sent out seem to not address the problem. Oh, thanks, David. I appreciate that. I use a hanky instead because I blow much harder than the paper can hold. But listen, yeah. Okay. The won is crashing. The pound is crashing. The euro is crashing. The world's coming to an end. But you're right, David. No one seems to want to talk about the Biden era. No one wants to talk about how all the documents were auto-penned and who was actually running this country for 4 years. But no. Don't talk about that. You've got to be wrong. Biden was perfect. He was fine. David, I got to tell you, Biden was perfect. Yes, he was perfect at sleeping. He was perfect on reading cue cards. He was perfect on taking directions. I don't know. That sounds like the Russian puppet. It sounds like the Manchurian Candidate from the 1960s, I believe, David. 1960s was a Manchurian Candidate. If you can Google that while I'm here, which we may not be Googling much longer because we're going to be chatting it instead. But at the end of the day, we can't fact check what happened during the Biden administration. However, we can fact check how many Coca-Colas Donald Trump orders from his magic button in the White House. Why is it so important that rumors about Donald Trump's illustrious affairs make the headlines and don't require any fact check, but over time sort of sift their way out? But who signed all the pardons? No one wants to know. No one knows who made the order. The Bidens were not beloved by the Obamas. In fact, the Obamas couldn't stand the Bidens, and Jill Biden, I believe to this date, voted Republican. And if there's any way to find out that ballot, I would actually maybe pay money to see it. They hated each other. They also don't like Kamala. Kamala has a lapdog begging to be around Obama, but even Obama wanted nothing to do with Kamala even before she was vice president. She was a senator knighted by someone who allegedly she was screwing, that got her to the highest office in California, and then undoubtedly was picked to be Biden's running mate for DEI purposes, because clearly word salad, hyena laugh, and being missing in action in every post that you're given are not qualities to be the vice president, especially when your vice president seems to be running the country, or wasn't she, or was she? Because again, we don't know who was pulling the strings on our illustrious puppet. And it wasn't just 1 year, David, the 2024. It was 2024 where they could no longer hide Biden in the basement. Bibi had to come out. Bibi had to play. Bibi couldn't practice his debate for more than 25 minutes and demand a nap. Let me tell you something. The world and the media has been turned on its head. And as the spigot of money and funds continue to get turned off by the Dodge group, or Doge, if I misenunciate it, you're going to find more and more of these media houses dying to get money. George Soros has so much money, but the money that he was spending was coming from the American government, from the American people. Today, the country is polarized at 50-50. It's insane. That isn't a solution. Any country with a 50-50 isn't going to have a synergy that bolsters growth. And it's happened in this country before. It's happened in many countries, and we will find our way out of it. But I think no one in the media should be villainizing what happened today if they're unwilling to villainize what happened in the past. And a small little excerpt in the back of a newspaper isn't a retraction and isn't an apology. I think the ladies in The View should be flushed down the media thing. I think networks that have been complicit lose their FCC license. And I think new mechanisms and new organizations should emerge. I think we should force them into bankruptcy and let them suffer the financial justice that we Americans or you Canadians or Mexicans or globalists feel when you screw up in business. Why are we continuing to support them? I don't know. David, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we have over 800 episodes. In our 800 episodes, we have chattered about many issues other than Donald Trump, with Donald Trump being the most polarizing conversation with the Bidens in the last 4 years. Tell me, percentage-wise, why isn't the general media taking a note from the Rant Network? We're not a media outlet.
No,
We're a podcast. And we get ahead of all of their nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Stuart. It's funny you say that, because that would assume that they want to give us any credibility. Remember, these are the same people who didn't want to let podcasters into the White House because it's the press room.
Yeah.
Like, let me remind these folks that you wouldn't have had a job because in the 1940s and 50s, executives thought TV was just a fad. So, like, let's get over this derangement of that the media is gospel. But Newt Gingrich is yelled and screamed. He wants a full probe into Biden. Deaf ears. You've got actually some media outlets that are asking, why aren't we looking into this whole thing? Deaf ears. And listen, with all the respect on the Republicans, I'm not sure why they're not going after the Bidens, and maybe they'll do it next year when it's an election year and when it's not Trump craziness time. But here's the thing. The amount of the apology tour, and you brought up The View, the apology tour, those women on The View, it's all about apologies. It's all about apologizing. It's the Biden apologies, fan club. The Biden could do no wrong. And this is why people are looking at this show and saying, you don't make sense. If you love the Bidens and you love the Democratic Party, no matter what we say, and I see this, Stuart, day in and day out lately, it's no matter what you say. If you're on Team Blue, which in your case is the Democrats, and you believe and you drank their Kool-Aid, it doesn't make a difference what I say, because you're just not listening. Because all you want to do is to go to those media outlets that will continue to make you, to continue to convince you how right you are. But that doesn't mean you are right. It just means you're listening to, it's like listening to your own music that you really enjoy, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good because you love that song. Well, those crickets that you hear are the people who just don't want to listen. And that's what's happened. And the media outlets have controlled the messaging to the point where they want you to know what message you need to hear. The message you need to hear is that Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian hoax. That Nancy Pelosi, whatever Nancy Pelosi said, listen, guys, call out the Dems and call out the media like it really was. Nancy Pelosi, 30 years ago, screamed for tariffs. But it was Trump's idea now, so now they're back. Does anybody call out Nancy Pelosi for her hypocrisy? Absolutely not. Let's take a more recent one. Barack Obama, same thing. He wanted tariffs. Early on, But
Dodge
it's
too.
a Trump idea. It's a bad idea. And I don't want to
Dodge was created by Obama.
I don't want to bring this back to the Trump tariff story, but it's about a media outlet that doesn't want you to know the truth and is covering up. Folks, the fact that in 2024, your country, Stuart, you might be right, it's even longer, but we do know, and we saw it in 2024, Joe Biden could not have run the United States.
Nope.
So who did? And why is this not scaring Americans? You're talking about voter rights, and you don't want IDs at voter, in going to vote and whatever. By the way, I could say this and now in my election, which is coming up April 28th, you must show ID. It's against the law not to vote without ID. But in you guys who go ballistic, you can't. They're rights. You have to protect the people. Protect the people. But the president who you've voted is not running the show, and that's not protecting the people. Folks, listen to the hypocrisy from the left, from the media, and ask yourself, scratch your head, no matter where you are on the spectrum, and don't bring up Trump. This is the thing I love. Just because Trump is wrong doesn't make Biden right. Let me stress that. I am tired of hearing that. Yeah, but your president did this or your candidate did this. It's not relevant. You don't tell that to your children, so why do you accept it in politics? Folks, Joe Biden's administration committed a crime. It was a crime. It's a mutiny. Stuart, I don't know about you. I think it's a mutiny. What say you as we wrap up this episode of the Rant Network?
It's very simple. David, if the media doesn't turn around and self-reflect in the most difficult fashion, media in America will be dead. State-run media is what it will be coined as, and it will be falling down a slippery slope to the USSR communist Soros standards. And David, on that note, there's your
We're done. We're done, folks. Thanks again for joining us this week. On Monday, we'll be